This is a video that's going to focus on the margin for error that the Baltimore Ravens do not have, whether it's on the offensive or defensive side, and some of the situations, at least one in particular, where I think the Ravens coaching staff did not do their players' diligence and didn't put them in position to succeed. So we're going to pick this up. We're late into the third quarter. Cincinnati is trying to answer a touchdown by the Ravens that pulled them to within 19-14. Of course, it's Keaton Mitchell's touchdown off the right side. It's a 2nd and 9. The Ravens are in a man-free setup pre-snap by man on the outside with Marlon Humphrey and Awuzie. And then Hamilton and Gilman set up as man on the number 2 to each side. Hamilton is over top of Chase. That's where Burrow seems to be looking initially. Chase on the little outcut, covered up by Hamilton. And Burrow chooses to go to the backside route. Mitchell Tinsley against Awuzie. Awuzie, a really nice play that sets up a 3rd and 9 that really frustrates me from a player, from a talent allocation standpoint, and from an awareness and decision-making perspective for our defensive staff. So this is the very next snap. As you can see, it's a 3rd and 9, and we're threatening with a mug look up here. I covered this in a video about Lamar Jackson's performance over the weekend, basically talking about how Cincinnati handles the mug look consistently and how we do on the offensive side. In fact, how we actually do not oftentimes. They often will move a tight end up into one of the A gaps and basically try to allocate 4 players for the 2 A gaps and 2 B gaps in a dedicated manner, so there's no pressure on Burrow up, or whoever's playing quarterback for him, up the middle initially. Ball's on the left hash, and what we've done is we've asked Roquan Smith to cover a wide receiver, Iosivas or Yoshivas, however you say his name, on a vertical that he intentionally brings into the middle of the field. Because what's going to happen during the course of the play, Malachi Starks is going to get depth. Could he play it better? Sure. The point is, we shouldn't be allocating 3 different coverage guys, in the case of Gilman, Hamilton, and Marlon Humphrey, to blitz and asking Roquan to play an inside linebacker that far down the field. When you're distended from the receiver, there's literally no way you can guard him. That is about as easy a throw as you'll get, from that standpoint, from actually making the throw. Would I like to see Gilman be a little bit more forceful with his blitz off the edge, the way that he takes on Samaj Pirine, basically meaning don't run around the block and try to, quote, chase the sack, condense or compress the blocker and disrupt the quarterback's flow. But from a Roquan Smith standpoint, how far do you think it is from the right tackle's foot, outside foot, to where 80 is lined up? I would say it's 6 yards. To me, it looks like it could be 7, but we can I think it's 6, so we'll call it 5. How far is Roquan Smith lined up, his right foot, from the outside foot of the right tackle? Let's call it 2 yards. We're at least 7 yards distended from 80 in a horizontal standpoint. And then we're being asked to go cover him underneath on a vertical. That even if we had a DB covering, like a Marlon Humphrey or a Gilman or a Kyle Hamilton, we would still be at a leverage deficit from a horizontal standpoint. This is a horrible coverage scheme. There's no excuse for people to say this is all Roquan Smith and Malachi Starks' fault. Do I think that Starks could play it better? Absolutely. The route design by 80 and 82 is designed to create some width between them, such that a half-field safety, there is no other half-field safety. Gilman is up here running around the block of Pirine. But the idea of running these routes at a particular width is to put a split field safety or half field safety, in the case of Starks, in some conflict. Do I think he could play it better and move in a little bit more quicker fashion? Yes. With that type of horizontal separation by alignment, it's no surprise that a wide receiver runs away from an inside linebacker. I think Roquan was able to cover the lower window. Think of a window that's in a house. You got 2 windows. He was able to cover the lower window. He was not able to cover the top window. I like the way that Cincinnati handles this, bringing the tight end into the backfield because he's not a receiving threat, and then setting him up to handle, along with the 2 guards and the center, the 2 A gaps and the 2 B gaps. The running back actually goes to the other side, and he will try to take control of the safety blitz from the opposite side. And you can see Pirine is actually looking over there as soon as he gets set up in the backfield. Burrow told him who to block. In my opinion, The Ravens, yes, did they check into something here from a coverage standpoint? Sure. If you want to blame the players for making this coverage available, you're just looking at it from the wrong angle or the wrong perspective. Their two guards, the center, and the tight end handle the two A gaps and the two B gaps. It reminds me of something that Ray Lewis said years ago. We need to let the rush guys rush and the cover guys cover. We've inverted that here. I think this is way too easy for Burrow, given that Gilman is unable to get home on the blitz. There is no way you can convince me that this is a difficult throw to throw over the top of an inside linebacker where there's no safety help whatsoever. So what I'm talking about is where Burrow throws this football. I've come back to the all-22 angle for a moment. Where Burrow throws this football in relation to the safety that's on the field, Malachi Starks. That's pitch and catch, as far as I'm concerned, at the NFL level. For a high school kid, maybe even certain levels of college, more difficult, fine. To me, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Aaron Rodgers, whoever's playing quarterback for the Cleveland Browns probably doesn't make this throw, but 3 of the 4 starting quarterbacks in our division, I guess 4 if you want to include Joe Flacco, make that throw 90% of the time. In my opinion, we've got misallocation of resources by asking an inside linebacker to cover a wide receiver, and we've got tremendous lack of awareness on field, whether that's Roquan and Kyle Hamilton's fault. They're the two guys who check with each other here and then switch the coverage. But for my money, we've got a nickel DB type closer to 80 than Roquan is that we could actually ask to cover. God forbid we actually switch these two guys. So what I mean is if we wanted to run this blitz and this coverage, God forbid we take Marlon Humphrey and put him here and Roquan Smith and line him up and blitz him off the edge. It makes no sense to me. You won't get an inch of budging from me in terms of blaming our guys for not being able to execute this coverage. With that much width between him and 80 pre-snap, you can't even see 80 on the screen, and we're asking this guy to cover. I think this is borderline dereliction of duty from the Ravens defensive staff. As poorly as our offense played, they deserve a lot of criticism, for sure. This particular video focuses on, this defensive snap, which I think was important. Again, we have been able to close to 19-14. It's a 3rd and 9. A field goal, if we're able to hold to a field goal, makes it 22-14, and we're still in the game from a one-score standpoint. I don't think that we deserve to win. I think the Cincinnati Bengals outplayed us consistently on the night for whatever reason. Playing at home on Thanksgiving, 4 days after playing another game at home, whatever the excuse or the reasons are, I'm comfortable with all of them. What I'm not comfortable doing is co-signing or offering to you that that's a sound coverage, because it's not. You wouldn't run it at any level of football and ask an inside linebacker, one who's not among, Roquan's probably not among the fastest 12 to 15 Mike linebackers in the NFL at this point in 2025, just from a straight line standpoint. And we're putting him at tremendous leverage deficit by alignment, asking him to peel out and play what, E.A. Edgar Allen and I kind of feel like is two-man over there with Malachi Starks over the top. But the problem with calling it two-man is really ends up being one man, because Starks is the only deep safety. We're blitzing Gilman. Burrow and those guys picked it up, or they had an answer for it that they had shown earlier in the game they would be able to handle that blitz. I'm not a fan at all of that decision. Our defense was kind of backed up against the wall. Zach Orr's group certainly outplayed our offense for almost the entirety of the night. No question about that. This is one where I think he would like to have it back, or at least as a Ravens fan and someone who tries to analyze the game, I can't in good conscience tell you that I think this was a sound decision. I hope they put that particular coverage and scheme in the playbook and leave it there for a while.